twitter.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
Welcome everybody live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com, and we're so excited to have you with us this evening, which promises to be just another incredible blockbuster presentation by Dr. Carolyn Dean about a subject that everybody knows and cares about, and that is your health. And most people know without your health, you have nothing. And sometimes people are even confronted with that reality, and it becomes a very deep and personal revelation to them in the absence of their health. But there are things that threaten our ability to maintain our health, and some of them are the way that governments and different institutions tamper with our access. And some of them are a lack of understanding, a lack of awareness of what our options are and what we can do, how we can engage them. But fortunately, tonight, we are going to tackle this huge, broad topic for you and bring you some great information that is going to empower you, it's going to inspire you, and it's going to keep you on the leading edge of creation along with our very own Dr. Carolyn Dean, who is leading the charge on so many fronts to keep us all healthy. Before I bring in our guest this evening, I just want to say to our guest, can you hit *5 on your keypad? So I know which phone is yours, because we've got several callers here, and I don't recognize some of the numbers. So again, *5 on your keypad. Very good. Okay, thank you. So, and we're so excited, too, because this evening we are being joined by Paola Brown. And Paola is the president of Americans for Homeopathy Choice. And I just want to tell you, very well respected and even recommended by our listeners as a person who is in the know and somebody Dr. Dean should have on her show. So we've got Paola with us this evening, and of course we've got our very own Dr. Carolyn Dean, and we're just going to open it wide open and just get started. Welcome, Paola, and welcome, Carolyn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's great, Paola. Good to meet you. Sorry we're not Skyping, but that would mean we'd have to get out of our bathing suits, right?
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going to let Ginny lead the charge here, because you know what you want to say, Paola, and we don't want to stand in your way. We all agree with your mission, and we want our listeners to know more about it. So I'll let Ginny and you take over, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so Paola, let me just say this. Let's start, first of all, a little bit about your story and how you discovered homeopathy, because a lot of our listeners really are not necessarily familiar with homeopathy. So kind of bring us into that awareness.
Yeah, homeopathy is an interesting system of medicine. I was diagnosed with more than one autoimmune disease. One in particular that was pretty debilitating was interstitial cystitis. It's chronic bleeding of the bladder, and Harvard Medical School says that people suffering with this condition are similar to someone undergoing chemotherapy. That's the quality of life you have. So I was pretty darn sick and tried a lot of really, really great natural therapies that helped a little bit, but really didn't do it until I found homeopathy, and it has totally rocked my world. I believe that every mother in America should have a homeopathy kit in their possession. I love homeopathy. It has totally cured me of, that condition and so many other other concerns. And I have 3 wonderful kids and a husband, and the day that I brought that homeopathy kit into my house and learned how to use it especially for acute type things, it's the last day that my family has ever taken an antibiotic or medication, even Tylenol. I mean, it takes care of everything, and I love it.
So let me understand, first of all, when you learned about homeopathy, who taught you about it? Who presented it in a compelling enough way that said, this is something I'm going to try?
Well, the funny thing is that I actually grew up with homeopathy. I'm originally from Brazil, and my mom brought with her a homeopathy kit when we immigrated because she knew we wouldn't have, regular medical insurance. My dad was a college student. And so it was in my life growing up. And then then it kind of drifted away. My dad graduated from school. He got work in, corporate America. And my mom was so relieved that we had medical insurance. So she literally threw out her kit, which is kind of a tragic thing, So it kind of fell by the wayside. I grew up, and then I found antibiotics, and it led me down the path of chronic disease. And so I had been trying a lot of different things, and I stumbled upon the website of a homeopath based out of New York at the time named Joette Calabrese. And homeopathy, it triggered this memory that I had grown up with these remedies and that I was really very healthy growing up. My mom really set me up with homeopathy, and it kind of brought this flashback, and it reconnected me, I think, back to my childhood roots. And then the rest is history. And I love Joette, and I've worked with other homeopaths throughout the United States. We have really, really great homeopaths in our country, so we're really lucky for that.
And how were you? So you worked with the homeopathy person, the doctor, and they told you, okay, here's the formula, and you just started working with it. And how long would you say that it took you to recover?
So I would say that within 3 months, I could really tell that I was on my way, that I was getting a lot better. And every month after that was a little bit better, a little bit better. I'd say after 12 full months, I was 98% there, especially with my bladder. Because that's pretty typical for chronic illness. Now, of course, you have an acute illness like a cold or a flu or a sinus infection. Homeopathy helps much quicker than that. But for a chronic disease, it takes more time to kind of uproot that. And I think beginning to end, it was a good year there. And it was the best year because every month I felt like, we were on the right track once we found the right remedies. So.
And when you said, you brought up an interesting point, which is finding the right remedy. And did you work with somebody to do that, or could you discern it yourself? What do you say to people who have a difficult time in identifying the remedy that's going to work for them?
Yeah, so for an acute issue, this is why I like homeopathy so much as a mom. For an acute, like I said, a cold, a flu, a sinus infection, even, just strep throat, bronchitis, those types of things, you can do your homework. You can buy some great books out there. There's a lot of homeopaths out there that are teaching homeopathy to moms to learn how to kind of take over the acute things yourself. For chronic things, it can be a little bit more complicated. And in general, it's great to work with a professional homeopath for that. There are classes out there that teach you, like Joette is an example, that teach you protocols for chronic illness. And I've just reached a point, though, where I just need to hand the stress of kind of finding the right remedy for a chronic thing to a professional homeopath, and I partner with them. And you really need to pay attention to your symptoms and know your body, and that's your role when you're working with a homeopath, and provide that information for them, which leads them to the right remedy. So being a very observant person is very, very helpful to the homeopath. But once they find the right remedy, it will work. Selecting the right remedy is a trick, and they can do that.
Very good. Excellent. So you got reconnected with homeopathy. You found it valuable for your health condition. You found yourself recovered within a year. And that's an extraordinary option for somebody who's pretty much, kind of sentenced to, you're just going to feel like crud the rest of your life, and there's nothing that can be done for you. right?
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. And I have to say, I had tried everything. I mean, I meet people, acupuncture, diet, veganism, paleo, everything possible, hydrotherapy, chiropractic. I tried so many wonderful things. I even went down the road of fecal microbiota transplant. I mean, I tried so many different things, and homeopathy was a game changer for me. And I've seen it help so many people in their lives. We live in a world, as you know, very sick people, and we need to make sure that we leave as many options as possible open for us so that we can reconnect with ourselves, which means health.
So you have this incredible journey and this huge awareness, and then how did you actually get involved with the organization that you're involved with?
So together with our Kaylee and Mindy and Allison, we founded this organization, Americans for Homeopathy Choice. You can find us on homeopathychoice.org. And I think I started out just by teaching a lot of homeopathy classes. I actually used to work after I found that homeopathy is so amazing. It rocked my world. I started working for Joette Calabrese. I did her podcast. And over time, I started teaching a lot of intro classes to moms because I wanted moms to find homeopathy. So many of my friends and, my girlfriends, our kids are sick. Our kids are sick with so many illnesses, and we're raising the sickest generation of children that ever walked the earth. And I felt compelled to help my sisters mother their kids and bring them to health. And so I was teaching these classes, these intro classes on homeopathy, wetting their feet. And I really enjoy teaching. I love speaking. I love public speaking. And I grew a little bit of a alumni group of following students who, followers who followed me and enjoyed my classes. And then the FDA came out with their draft guidance on homeopathy. And that was the trigger. And I said, guys, what are we going to do? And I think a lot of people came to me, Paola, what are we going to do? And I said, well, why don't we help the homeopaths? You know, if I was a practitioner, and I'm not, I'm a mom. You know, I have a master's degree in English, so I'm not in the health area as far as a professional goes. And I thought, if I was a professional, I would be a little bit worried about going toe-to-toe with the FDA. Or if I was a manufacturer, I'd be a little concerned about going toe-to-toe with the FDA, because the FDA and a practitioner or a manufacturer, they have to work together. The FDA is supposed to approve remedies, and there's a whole process. So I said, well, why don't we as consumers, we have immunity, why don't we stand up and kind of help out and kind of help the homeopaths and help manufacturers kind of, speak our mind. Why is this so important to us? And before I knew it, I was in the FDA's office for 2 separate meetings, and we've met with them twice, and we've done a lot of important, I think, political work. We have an attorney on retainer in D.C., and we're doing, very quickly, I realized the power of the consumer and of the mother and the mother bear, is just a very important part of this. And we like to joke that we're mama bears, because saying that you're a mama bear is just a really nice way of saying that I will rip your head off if you mess with my children. And so we feel that homeopathy is a key component of mothering our children. I mean, my son, just the other day, he was sliding down the banister on the stairs, jammed his arm, and really injured it, not life-threateningly, but it was really quite painful, and he was screaming his head off and hurt. And I went to my kit, and I knew exactly what to get him. I got him arnica and hypericum, because hypericum is great for extreme nerve pain. It was this shooting pain. And he had to wrap it up in a splint, but it helped so much, and he healed and recovered so quickly. So don't tell me, FDA, how I can raise my kids. Don't come into my home and tell me that I can't try this inherently safe medicine first before having to resort to antibiotics and all those other drugs which we know have side effects. I want to try this at any point and even first in taking care of my kids. So that's the short story.
Well, no, I think that's, now let me ask you this. So you said before I knew it, I was in the FDA offices, and I'm trying to understand that critical intersection. Did you make an appointment to go? Were you called? Were you summoned in? How did those introductory experience, how did you get introduced on that level?
So we have an excellent attorney. His name is Jim Turner. He's in D.C. He is, basically an FDA attorney, so that means he's taken a lot of different actions and cases to the FDA. And so he's just an expert in the field, and he's been, monumental. And what I really like about our attorney is that he very, very much believes in the consumer voice, and he's very empowering. I mean, I've had situations where I've said, Jim, why don't you hold my hand and do all these things with me? And he says, no, I need you to step forward because you are the most important person here. You need to do this. And so, and that's really kind of the process. He's been great and really a blessing. He's actually, he's the attorney who helped legalize acupuncture. A lot of people don't know this, but for a long time, well into the 90s, the FDA actually said that acupuncture was legal, but the needles were illegal. And so Jim Turner is the attorney that legalized that. Yep.
That's so FDA. Yep. That's so them. Yep. That's just so beautifully disconnected and abhorrently ridiculous. Okay, so I want to find, so you work with Jim Turner, excellent choice. You get your ducks in a row. You go into the FDA, and you start by writing a memo to them, or basically saying, here's the scoop.
Yeah, basically we went to voice our concern over their draft guidance, and there's a lot. I mean, the draft guidance is a fantastically awful document that is really, really fun to pick apart and to point out all of its flaws. But just let me boil it down to this: a draft guidance is not a regulation. It really has no legal standing. It's just a statement that the FDA puts out all the time that says this is how we, the FDA, interpret the law. Now, what happens if they don't interpret the law correctly? What if they misinterpret the law? Well, if a group does not rise up and checks them and says, hey, you're reading the law wrong, they'll just do whatever they want. And so it's so important when the FDA missteps that we stand up and say stop. And so what they said in their draft guidance, basically, and there's a lot of different points again, but I'm going to boil it down. The most concerning thing to me is that they're going to do a risk-based approach to homeopathy and start putting homeopathy through a new drug application. Okay, so risk-based approach, yeah, it's bad. So what does that mean? Risk-based approach means they're going to categorize what remedies they think are the most dangerous. And let me just explain that in 200 years of existence, homeopathy has never had one documented death or disability due to their remedies. So I'm not sure how you categorize something that's very safe to something that's just as safe. So they're doing a risk-based approach in categorizing remedies that they think are the most risky, which don't exist, and then they're going to force those to go through a new drug application. If we were to take an herb and we were to take one component of an herb, that would cost $6 million at minimum to go through a new drug application. But the thing is, a lot of people wonder, well, why is the FDA doing this to homeopathy? Homeopathy is not a drug. But actually, according to the Food Drug and Cosmetic Act, homeopathy is a federally recognized form of medicine. Yes, we have the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, we have the United States Pharmacopoeia, and then the National Formulary. So we have 3 books that list all of the drugs in the United States, and homeopathy is a federally recognized form of medicine. It's not a supplement like an herb. It's not magnesium. It's its own system of medicine. So actually the FDA can do this. But up until now, the FDA has understood. I mean, we have statements from the 70s saying where the FDA says things like, because of the unique nature of homeopathy, we're going to treat it differently because it is different. That's why it's in its own book, right? It's Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the U.S. It's a separate type of medicine, and we're going to treat it separately. But now the FDA says, no, we're going to treat it like everything else. And these remedies, they're natural. You can't patent them. They cost, the remedy that cured me cost $8. $8. Maybe I had to buy it 3 times for that whole year, right? So this is an inherently safe medicine. Now it's going to go through a new drug application. To put even one remedy through that would bankrupt the entire profit that homeopathy makes in the United States. Cumulatively, all the pharmacies don't have enough money to let one remedy go through that. So it's basically shutting down homeopathy.
Right.
And it's a big problem.
Carolyn, do you have anything you want to respond and say?
Yes, it's, I don't know, Paola, it's like the brick hitting the wall or the car. It's come to such a point in modern medicine. I wrote a book called Death by Modern Medicine. So it's come to that point where they're now looking at homeopathy. Actually, let me back up a little bit, because I took the emails from your friend that works with you, Rachel, and she was adamant that I should be in touch with you and you should be on the show, and you were doing such great work with homeopathy. And I just kind of scoffed, and I said, there's no way that anything can survive the FDA once they have a person or group or a whole medical dispensary under their gun. And you've already convinced me, though, that as a mother, as a consumer, as part of the public, you do have the ability to educate, because all you have in your interest is your children, your family. You're not out to make money, et cetera, et cetera. So what I saw in my world, I went to the Codex Elementaris meetings in Bonn and in Rome in 2004, 2005, where they want to regulate dietary supplements. And they've done that. They have done that because all the very, the big, the effective, the well-known dietary supplement companies have been bought out by Clorox and Nestle and Big Pharma. So they're gone. Yeah. The quality control of those supplements now is inherently at risk. We're going to keep our company privately owned for as long as forever. So that leaves homeopathy as the only really safe and effective and simple and inexpensive way that people can take control of their health. And what I would say about with homeopathy, it's an energetic medicine. It's based on the energy of the body, directing it in the way the body should be directed. It's gotten off course, so you give it a remedy. But I will say that the minerals we are working with, and you mentioned magnesium, the minerals in the body create the energy, create the energetic force that allows homeopathy to work. That's my thesis, because when I was, after I did my naturopathic training, this is back in 1978, I wanted to be a homeopath. I had my MD, and I was doing my naturopathy, and homeopathy was so exciting because it could treat anything and everything. But the more I studied it and the more I worked with it, I realized that a lot of people are too sick energetically for homeopathy to be the only thing that may work for them. So what... Go ahead. Well,
we have our water filter, and you put the water in the top and it filters down, and then the water's in the lower half. I always put my magnesium in there. I think that you have to kind of feed the vital force. And if it's malnourished, if you have a malnourished child, there's no remedy in the world, right, that can help them except for nutritious food and getting those minerals in there. And so I totally think that, we need to have these building blocks. And I think what you're saying about these companies, being compromised because now they're so strongly associated to Big Pharma, it's a really big concern. And And that is why this fight for homeopathy is so important, because if the FDA wins this and takes over this medicine, we lose our ground, and that is how they're going to continue treating all other remedies. And the crazy part is what they're doing has no legal standing. It has no legal standing. It is simply how they interpret the law, and yet even then they will try and take it away from us. But I have to say, people ask me this all the time. They ask our attorney this all the time. How is it possible that we can win? Because it feels so hopeless, And I talk about this a lot on our website, homeopathychoice.org. But the reason Big Pharma needs tons of money, gobs and gobs of money, is because they're trying to create the same, they're trying to fabricate like a movement, because they don't have people that are passionate, that stand behind them in the same way that, people in the natural supplement industry, people in homeopathy do. And so when you have a group of passionate mothers that show up with just a little bit of money, energetically, it goes farther. $1 in the hand of a passionate mom is like $1 million for what the pharmaceutical industry has to reproduce to equal that force and that energy.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I certainly know Jim Turner very well, and you've chosen the best lawyer, and I know his philosophy and his stance. It is that if you stand up to the FDA with knowledge and information and a bit of even just a bit of public support and with passion, they will run. They will settle out of court. They will turn away and try to recalibrate how they can take over. So I agree. And I'm really happy that Rachel just egged me into just looking at this whole picture, because I'm sort of shut down from other doctors, even from other practitioners. I even say about naturopaths, they're using too many supplements. They're not taking care of the deep down nutrition, and the farmers have given up. They're not growing food that has enough nutrients for people, so that we really have to take charge of the basics. And homeopathy is the basics. When our listeners start reading up on homeopathy and how in the influenza epidemic in the what was it,
1918.
18, it was homeopaths that kept people alive. They have statistics that will blow you away. The homeopathic hospitals had a very low death rate, and all the modern medicine hospitals, everybody was dying. And all that is covered up, and it's the sort of fake and pseudoscience that comes to the fore and says, well, we can't see anything in this liquid. There's nothing there, so therefore it doesn't exist. They don't even look at the clinical application. You should go back to our stuff. Our Remag, you can't see anything under a laser with our Remag, because it is a picometer size, it's stabilized ions that's invisible. I started calling them invisible minerals. Well, homeopathy is invisible. It is energetic, but it has been proven. I mean, look at what Ben Venise did. Ben Venise studies. He was an incredibly brilliant scientist who proved that homeopathy worked, and I think he was hounded actually to death because he got outside the norm of science. He was to other scientists and medical people a subversive, because he actually proved homeopathy works, and he's not allowed to kind of defend homeopathy. Go ahead.
Well, that's exactly right, and this is what I always come back to. If you're a skeptic, if you have to see it to believe it, and whatever, and this is too diluted for it to work, then don't buy it. Just keep on walking. Go straight to the Tylenol. Go straight to the Advil. Do what you got to do that you think is best for you. I support you. I will defend your right to do that. But my concern is that as a mother And as a wife and as a human that has her own body, I want to have control of what options we have. And homeopathy is our option. And so our attorney, Jim Turner, if you go to homeopathychoice.org, right there on the front homepage, we have Help Us Reach 10,000 Comments. We submitted a citizen's petition to the FDA. The citizen's petition is basically what we're hoping will be a block to the FDA. Now, look, the FDA can do whatever they want. They can finalize this draft because the draft guidance is a rough draft of what they're intending to do. And when they finalize it, then they're going to actually start implementing it. And so if you go to homeopathychoice.org, we've submitted a citizen's petition, and we really hope that what it does is that the FDA is technically not supposed to finalize the draft guidance until they respond to our petition first. So it's a blocking maneuver. Now, the FDA can do whatever they want. They can finalize it, and then we can decide whether or not we want to take them to court. But they know that we can take them to court. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of slow things down. But what we're really working on, that's in, and we need your comments. So go to homeopathychoice.org, right there on our homepage. Click on that banner. It says, Help Us Reach 10,000 Comments, and it'll take you straight to a copy and paste and submit your comment to the FDA. So we really need you to stop what you're doing. If you're folding laundry, if you're, sauteing dinner, getting it ready, just turn it all off, walk away, go to homeopathychoice.org. Please, right now, click on that banner and copy and paste the comment and send it into the FDA. It will take you 5 minutes. We've made it as easy as possible. And we're only at 1,000 comments. We need 10,000.
And is it the red Contact Congress banner?
It's right there. It says, Help Us Reach 10,000 Comments. Click to visit, and the FDA little circle's right there, very top one.
Written in red.
Help Us Reach.
Yeah, we have to do
right
that.
There. Help us reach 10,000 comments. Or if you want to go straight to the URL, it's signthehomeopathypetition.com. If you want to go straight over there and you want to bypass our homeopathychoice.org, just go sign the petition, thehomeopathypetition.com, signthehomeopathypetition.com. But we are working on a broader legislative strategy, and so we actually are very excited. We have coming up in April 8th, 9th, and 10th, we're going to be on Capitol Hill. And if you are passionate and you love homeopathy, we want you to join us. We're going to have a meeting with the representatives on Capitol Hill, and we're going to be talking hopefully about developing a broader legislative strategy, because this petition is kind of a stay of action. It's a temporary fix. We're hoping to kind of slow things down and buy us some time. But our goal is to take this to Capitol Hill and to protect homeopathy, in a broader way. And so that's we're developing those plans with Jim and obviously with the homeopathy community. We're working very closely with them. We're very thankful for the support we're getting from the National Center for Homeopathy, from the American Institute of Homeopathy. A lot of great organizations are in our corner, and they're really kind of amplifying the mother's voice, because it's an important voice, and we're happy to participate in that.
Right. Now, was it a couple of years ago that I think it was in Canada, maybe in the U.S. too, they started regulating homeopathy and taking out animal products, tissue products, like homeopathic remedies that used parts of animal organs, like say the adrenals of a bear or something like that.
I see. I'm not as familiar specifically with that, but I do know that the draft guidance is kind of doing that risk-based approach, and they've kind of prioritized remedies that they think are more dangerous versus others. But my response to that is, if a homeopathy remedy has been properly manufactured according to the guidelines set forth in the Food Drug and Cosmetic Act, right, through the HPUS, if they're prepared properly, then they're all the same. They're all highly dilute and extremely safe and inherently safe, right? And so when I hear that they're doing these they're kind of cherry picking, oh, this sounds a little scary to me, and I feel like I don't like hearing about that, so we're going to regulate that. Makes absolutely no sense. They know not what they're talking about, and they know nothing about homeopathy, and they should really just step away.
Right. Yes, tell us about this. Was it the belladonna that they decided was dangerous?
Oh, I love talking about this. Okay, all right. This is great. So, a few years ago, they did these tests on teething tablets, which include several ingredients that help babies with teething. Wish I had it when my babies were small, but I hadn't rediscovered homeopathy yet. And so what they said is that they tested several bottles, and they said, ooh, the bottles had varying levels of belladonna. The highest amount, Carolyn, of belladonna they found was like taking a drop of water and dividing it into 128,000 parts. One of those parts of the drop of water was the, quote, elevated amount of belladonna that they found that maybe caused, adverse reactions in children. Okay, so their concern is that there was varying levels, but when we're talking about varying levels that are 1/1000th of a percent, this is not dangerous and this is not risky. I said this to the FDA in the meetings because this came up. I said, okay, let me paint a worst-case scenario. You said one bottle had that 1/1000th of a percent of that drop of water, right? If I were to eat 7 entire bottles that had the highest amount you found in one sitting in 1 hour, I would reach, 7 entire bottles in a small amount of time, let's say an hour, I would reach the amount of belladonna that the FDA has approved as being non-toxic in their drug called scopolamine for like motion sickness or something. So I said, so how is this dangerous? How am I accidentally going to ingest maybe 8 bottles of these teething tablets? I mean, it's totally ridiculous. It was a smear campaign, and the FDA this is literally what triggered me into running homeopathychoice.org, is when they compared Nux vomica to rat poison. And I said, okay, that's enough. That's enough. When properly prepared, homeopathy is inherently safe. We're talking about particles that are like 1,000th of a percent of a drop of water. This is ridiculous.
Right. What we say sometimes is people get a word allergy. So what the FDA is attacking is words. The word belladonna. Right. They look it up. It's toxic. Okay, therefore it's bad. I'll give a quick story. I was on a mainstream ESPN news channel the other day, a radio show, and there was a panel, and we were talking about sleep, and of course I brought up magnesium. I was like number 7 on the panel, and I said, just simply put Epsom salts in your child's bath, and you don't have to give them drugs to overcome the effects of their Ritalin for their ADHD. That's what they were talking about. What drug do we use to overcome the sleeplessness caused by Ritalin? So I said, put them in an Epsom salts bath. So you could almost hear the doctors on their phones clicking out Epsom salts. One lady doctor jumped up to the microphone and said, well, if your child is in an Epsom salts bath and they drink the bath water, they could have diarrhea. And that was her trying to attack something natural, because you see, these doctors never learned anything about nutrients, the homeopathy. Oh, forget about it. Acupuncture. In medical school, I was doing an acupuncture elective, and I was going around puncturing an apple with my acupuncture needle, because that's sort of the same scale as skin. So I was ridiculed. I was just crazy because I was doing acupuncture. So what doctors are told is any therapy that you have not learned in medical school is quackery. So that's why they're so against.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I always go back to this. We are talking about your freedoms. Your freedom to choose. That is what we're talking about. If you think this is crazy, quacky bullcrap, that's fine. But do you really want to live in a world, in a country where we are forced? It's like the Model T Ford. You can pick any color that you want as long as it's black. Is that the country we want to live in? Is that the world we want? Because I guarantee you that if that's the world you want to live in, soon enough, maybe you won't mind so much when my rights are taken away, but your rights are next, buddy. That's the kind of world you've set up for yourself. And that's what you need to think about.
Well, see, in medicine, there is no choice. So they've set it up that way where all you can do if you get health insurance, all you're going to get is an offer of drugs. And President Trump, he is trying to do his best for all the escalating drug prices and getting more generics and demanding lower prices. But I think that's actually a bad thing, because the cheaper drugs are, the more people will take them and the sicker they'll become. So that's going to backfire.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, you know what? Growing up without medical insurance was the best thing for my health, because my mom had to tuck in and figure out how to use her remedies and wait things out and let the fever burn out. The best thing. I mean, obviously, if something horrible and catastrophic would happen, that we'd be in really bad shape. But, you know, for the normal childhood illness, I mean, I've been a generation where you go to the doctor for everything, and a fever is something to be feared. And what I love about homeopathy is it taught me to reconnect to trusting the body, to appreciating the fever. It kills cancer cells. It does so many wonderful, usually when kids have a high fever and they're, like 3 years old or whatever, you'll notice afterwards that they have a leap in their developmental motor skills and their cognitive skills. I mean, it's wonderful. The human body is wonderful, and we as mothers are finding our way back to that. My generation, I'm about 35, and we're finding our way back to that because it's something our grandmothers knew, our great-grandmothers knew, and it's been lost somewhere in between. And we want to reclaim that right. It's our birthright. Like Scylla Walcott has a, go ahead.
No, you finish that. It sounds interesting. Go ahead.
Well, Scylla Walcott is a fantastic homeopath, and she's taught me a lot. I've read several of her books, and she talks about how it's our birthright to find our health and to own that health. And I think as a mother, I found my power and my strength. I went from timid, oh, doctor, help me, to I am the mother. When I found homeopathy and that kit came into my home. So, yeah.
And that's Scylla Walcott. That's CILLAWHATCOTT. And yes, Joette, I'm sure I met her when I lived in New York. I was doing a homeopathic acupuncture modality for AIDS and chronic fatigue in the early 90s in New York. So, yeah, I know the power of homeopathy. So Joette Calabrese, Joette, Calabrese. Google these ladies, a lot of women doing this. Tell me, what is your mother doing about homeopathy right now? Have you brought her back into the fold?
Oh, yeah, I'm very lucky in that sense. My husband is totally on board. He was the oldest of 10 kids, and so they just kind of let things ride out before jumping to drugs. And my mom is back to homeopathy. Both my parents, they're in their early 60s now, and they are totally drug-free. She takes her magnesium. My dad takes his magnesium as well, so we do like some supplements, not all of them, but some of them. And yeah, they take their homeopathy remedies. My dad has a great story how he was on omeprazole, which is a really intense acid reflux drug, for GERD. And he was on that, and I said, Dad, read the side effects. You're going to develop dementia. That's pretty much, if you add up all the side effects, they've pretty much defined Alzheimer's or dementia or something, and he read it, and he ran into a couple of his old friends, and they were having memory problems, and, the conversation led to, they're both on omeprazole as well, and that scared my dad. That really scared him. And he was always really supportive of homeopathy, but not quite to the point where he was going to abandon this drug. And so I did one of Joette's protocols for acid reflux. We talk about it on one of her podcasts. And he had a rough 2 months there with the acid reflux and transitioning from the drug to homeopathy. But by the end of the 2 months, that man, he's good to go. No more omeprazole and no more acid reflux. So.
Right, and that's Prilosec for people who know it by its drug name. It's one of the proton pump inhibitors. That's one of the drug classes that causes low magnesium. That is a black box warning by the FDA. They don't often tell you what it's doing, but it gets so bad with these proton pump inhibitors that they had to declare it that as being a side effect. So, whereas what happens with some GERD, heartburn, and whatnot, it's caused by kind of spasming of the diaphragms around the lower esophageal junction, and that can be made worse by magnesium deficiency. So that's why people who take these proton pump inhibitors will say, well, I had to keep taking more and more and more. It stopped working. Well, you're just causing more of the side effects or more of the cause of the problem in the first place. So
that's right.
We've still got 10, 11 minutes. What are we missing? You presented your case so well, and you've mentioned your website and mentioned the petition. What else do we need to know?
I know one thing I'd like to ask Carolyn, if you don't mind, and that is about vaccinating your children and using homeopathy. Carolyn has often said that she knows how to make homeopathy antidotes for different vaccines. How is your mom group dealing with all this vaccination business?
Great.
Well, to be honest with you, I was a little late to this discussion with my family, and so I personally don't have a ton of experience with this, but I do know that a lot of the moms have come to homeopathy wanting to find, especially just if you get sick, like what if, so-and-so doesn't vaccinate their kid and they get whooping cough, right? Homeopathy can really help get over these acute illnesses, and that's really where my wheelhouse is. But I know what you're talking about, and I know that's a really, really important subject, and I would honestly go to Scylla Watcott for that. She's got 2 documentaries out right now, and her website is realimmunity.org, and she's the one that really talks about, and homeopathy in relationship to that issue. I think it's a really important one, and it's just so important for you to know about your options, because options are power, right? If you know what your options are, then you can make a decision, and you can be like a consumer of medicine. You don't go to the store and buy the first outfit you see. You go and you shop around and you pick, and that's what we want, is choice in homeopathy. So.
Very good. And I will say, as far as your working with moms, I think one of the most powerful mom groups ever is Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. They have totally changed the legislative face and the penal code for the United States based on one mother deciding that it was just not right that her child should be killed by a drunken driver. And you think about it now, and there's just such a high level of awareness and a degree of passion about it. And nobody would even, you can't even compare apples to oranges, what that our country was like before that happened and what our country is like now and what the whole world is like. I think that, what you're doing with moms is fantastic. And, they are very passionate. All women are passionate, and men are passionate too, especially if it's something that you believe in. But I understand what you're saying about the desire to be able to, have your children well protected and feel like you are in control of their health. And that is a very vulnerable position to be in, to have a sick child. And how do you work with the emotional side of it, and what were you encouraging your dad to do when he was struggling with that very violent acid reflux? Because, when you take those kind of drugs, it totally eliminates you don't even have any acid in reserve, so your body really has a long way to go to recover. What do you do about the emotional side of it?
Well, my dad actually, he's so busy at work and everything, he didn't really tell me about how bad it was until after it was all over. So he kind of just stuck with it and tucked in and did it. But I do know fear. I do understand fear, and I have faced that giant toe-to-toe before. I remember the first time my son had a fever. I had read all the books. I read, I'm sure you guys have heard of Dr. Robert Mendelssohn's book, How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. He has a whole awesome chapter on fevers. And so I was like, okay, I ordered my remedy kit, and when my kid gets a fever, I'm going to just let it burn and make sure they're hydrated and make sure, that all that is in place. But I'm going to let this fever really kind of uproot and do its thing. And then my son gets a fever, and it was a brilliantly high one. It was really high. And I had pure diarrhea the whole time. I was so stressed and so anxious, just like, what is going on? What am I doing? And I gave him, belladonna. There's that remedy we just talked about that the FDA attacked, in those teething tablets. But I gave him belladonna, and he just slept and drank and slept and had soup and broth and slept and slept. And, when they're sleeping peacefully like that, they're healing. And he got out of that. He got through that to the other side of it, and guess what? He didn't die. And I was kind of surprised, and of course, if it was really serious, I'm happy to take him. I'm going to take him to the hospital or to, heroic life-saving measures, which is what I reserve those places for. But, for me, it's going to my tribe of moms. And that is exactly why I believe in homeopathychoice.org, because that first fever, I was utterly alone. I had no friends that did homeopathy. I had my mom, she couldn't remember. She was like, I don't know, maybe you should give him Tylenol. I'm like, Mom, that is not how this is supposed to work, And I felt very alone. And so then I started teaching these classes because I wanted to build a tribe of mothers who had been through it. And I have to say, we have that now. We have a lot of groups on Facebook and emails and text messages. And now I'm not so alone. And so basically what happens when my kid gets sick, this is what I do. First, I see how serious it is. If I know what it is, it's a cold, a flu, fever, nondescript fever, I just kind of keep an eye on it, keep them hydrated. But if it's something kind of more tricky, like a baby, or you don't know exactly what's going on, I'll go to my doctor and I'll get a diagnosis, and I just keep my mouth shut. I don't tell them that I'm not going to give the antibiotics. I don't tell them that I'm not going to give the Tylenol. I just kind of listen, what's the diagnosis? Okay, how bad is it? Okay, thank you so much. And be sure to fill that prescription. Oh, thank you so much. I don't lie. Thank you so much for your time. Then I bring them home, and then I go to my books, and I select a remedy. And I'm telling you, we're going on, 8 years now with homeopathy in our lives. And I have a 6-year-old daughter who has never once, ever taken a Tylenol, an antibiotic. That little girl has never once ingested a drug, ever. And that's thanks to homeopathy.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Let me go to the chat, Ginny. Just a couple of quick questions for Paola here. Just quickly, what do you think of acylcoccinum for
flu?
Yeah, for colds and flus.
Yeah, it's great. And actually, there was a group that just brought a lawsuit against acylcoccinum, saying that, this is just a sugar pill, because homeopathy is super dilute, you guys. And they say, and they brought a lawsuit, and guess what? It was just appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court, and basically they won. The jury listened to the expert witness brought by Boron, a homeopathic pharmacy, and then the expert witness brought on by the bad guys, the people that brought the lawsuit in, and the jury listened to both, and they sided with the homeopathic pharmacy. This is not just a sugar pill. This is not placebo. You can absolutely put on this acylcoccinum that it's for the flu. Fantastic remedy. Way better than, what's that drug that is like
Tamiflu?
Banned, and yes, that is banned in so many countries. I mean, it just breaks my heart that people use that instead of this wonderful medicine. So yeah, definitely go get it. It's flu season. You're going to want that in your house.
Right, good. And Canadians are on the chat are asking if they can sign the petition. I imagine not.
Yes. No, they can. Comments from around the world are welcome. Please, I love it that you're asking that. Yes, please do. Go to signthehomeopathypetition.com. Yes, I love you, Canada. Thank you.
And for vaccinations, if a child has to take a vaccine, I mean, we tell them to take magnesium and lots of vitamin C. Is Thuya the homeopathic remedy to help kind of antidote vaccine reactions? Or what would you say?
Historically, Thuya does have a history of helping once you get a vaccine. If you get a reaction, Thuya can be a big part of neutralizing that. But I don't mess around. Go to a qualified homeopath. And look, there are naturopaths that do a little bit of homeopathy because in naturopathy school, homeopathy is a rotation. I strongly recommend that you find a homeopath who lives and breathes homeopathy. Especially in a situation like that, you're going to want to have someone who really, really knows their stuff and is really dedicated to homeopathy. Not that the stuff the naturopath would do isn't. I'm just saying, for a situation like that, you want someone that really knows their stuff.
Absolutely, and actually right after you, Mary Aspinwall is coming on,
yes.
And she is a licensed, registered homeopath, and that's who we're going to be referring to. So she's going to take up these questions and be very helpful to people.
She's great.
So that's awesome. Awesome.
She's great.
Ginny.
Now look, go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to get Ginny to outro you, but say your final words, Paola.
My final word is that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Mothers are here to take care of their kids. We're here to take back our children's health. And I need you mama bears and you papa bears and you human bears out there. You can be a mother to pets and to animals too. We need you to go to our website, homeopathychoice.org, click on the banner, or you can go just straight to the website for the petition, signthehomeopathypetition.com, and help us reach 10,000 comments. We only have about 60 days left. The clock is on. We really need your help.
Okay, we'll get cracking, and we'll tell other friends about this. Okay, Ginny, are we up to the top of the hour?
We are.
I've got one little sentence. Marshall McLuhan said in the 60s, the fact that mothers rule the world, or the hand that rocks the cradle, that was proven by the Beatles.
Why?
That's right.
Because the girls took over and changed pop music by supporting the Beatles.
That's my dear husband of 52 years.
That's why I learned that phrase.
I love it.
I learned that phrase. I know that.
Go.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, that's right. You
and
learned a
thank
good one.
you. Yeah. Thank you, Paola. You've been wonderful. Really appreciate your work. Take care.
Okay.
Aloha.
Thank you. Bye. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you. Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye. All right, a quick break, and we'll come back with Mary Aspinwall, Hour 2. You're listening to Dr. Carolyn Dean, live at achieveradio.com.
With Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with host Ginny Gunther, after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
AchieveRadio.com.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The Wellness Scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The Wellness Scene with Dr. D.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hour 2 live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, and this is our last installment of the Dr. series, which we do every first Monday of the month. And we're so grateful for Paola's contribution in the first hour. And this hour, we're following up actually with another fantastic resource for those who are interested in homeopathy, and even those of our listeners who've been doing homeopathy for many, many years. Always opportunities to learn new things. We're going to be joined this hour by Mary Aspinwall. And I want to just ask Mary if you could hit *5 on your keypad and let me know what phone call you're dialing in from, because I've got lots of people here. Very good. Excellent. Okay, I see you now. All right, so we're going to bring Mary in, and I'll just say before I let her or have her way with us that I want to just let you know about Mary. She is a classical homeopath, and she's registered with the North American Society of Homeopaths, and she is a CEASE practitioner. She's helped thousands of people return to health since she began her practice in 1995. She studied at the College of Homeopathy in London, and she is a graduate of the Dynamis School of Advanced Homeopathy. Now, this is the kind of person that Paola was talking about. If you're going to learn and or start using, or you need counsel or wisdom or advice, Mary is a wonderful person to turn to. She also has designed a range of homeopathy kits, and she is an educator about those kits and also about homeopathy. So what is so fantastic about Mary is not only has she agreed to come on this evening and talk to us about her background in homeopathy and her answer some questions for us, but she is also presenting her kit, which we are going to be selling through our website so that make it easy for people to get. We're not marking it up. We're not discounting it. It's there. Boom, bada bing. You can get it and throw it in your box when you get your remag if you something you desire for yourself, if you don't have one at home. And also she's allowed us to include her guide in Dr. Carolyn Dean's new book, which Carolyn has written a homeopathy guide for you guys as well. So we've got a lot to cover in this hour. Let me start by saying welcome, welcome, Mary. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Let me just jump in here. Hi, Mary. It's good to speak with you. CEASE practitioner means complete elimination of autistic spectrum expression. So this is the person we want to talk to about.
Unfortunately,
yes.
That has become a bone of contention, that name. But CEASE was founded by a guy called Tina Schmitz, who was a Dutch homeopath, an amazing man. Unfortunately, he died prematurely from cancer in his 60s. And since that time, people have been saying, wouldn't it be great to change the name? Because there are a couple of problems with it. One is complete elimination. Sometimes it is possible, and sometimes it isn't possible. So it sounds like we're making a claim that you're guaranteed that if your child has autism or is injured in some way, that can be reversed. And the other problem with it is that it isn't just autism that this approach can help with. It can help with everything. Anyone who's had a problem after a medical intervention or a drug can use this approach to try to recover their health.
Wonderful. We call it total body meltdown, Mary.
Yeah.
And we all know about that. And Yes, it's very important because when you make claims these days, people will hold you to a claim. So I see what you're saying, but I wanted to clarify.
I wanted to maybe change it, but cease has a great reputation. It's helped a lot of people, and it's a name that people are passing around to one another. So I'm in two minds whether to take that down or to just let it be. It's difficult once something's established and the person who was responsible for establishing it isn't around to kind of discuss it with.
Right. Well, I would keep it. It's like Paola was saying in the first hour, take your power. We can do this. I mean, Ginny and I talk about raising people from the dead, for Pete's sakes. We've got to be
well,
powerful.
It's funny that you say that, but I would say that homeopathy was what raised me from the dead.
Tell us about that.
Well, I'll try and make it short, but it's a long story, and I'll try and make it short. My father was in the military in England, in the RAF. When I was 4 weeks old, my family were about to move to Singapore. My mother took me in for my vaccinations, and I had smallpox and polio and one other thing, and then a bunch of tropical disease shots. And from that time, she said, I was very unhappy, and I screamed and screamed and screamed. But it wasn't until I was actually about 32 that I put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and I realized that I had mercury poisoning. And homeopathy is one of the main things that brought me back almost from the dead. I would say I had 3 near-death experiences before I realized what the issue was.
Wow. Well, that's what some of the questions on our chat line, Mary, people were asking about vaccinations, how to antidote them, and the mercury aspect, of course. So can we start there then, just with
mercury and aluminium and formaldehyde and all sorts of terrible things. Well, I wanted to say how much I enjoyed listening to Paola, how great it is that she's doing this work on our behalf. And please, everybody who's listening, do take that 5 minutes to go and comment. I did it myself. It's very, very easy. And what Paola was saying is very important, I think. She said, if you have or you suspect vaccine injury, do work with somebody who is qualified. Homeopaths take about 4, sometimes 5 years to do their training. This isn't something that you really want to attempt at home, unfortunately. I love being able to help people do stuff at home and empower people, but I don't think that this is a suitable thing to try and attempt yourself. And in relation to homeopathy, we have this cease, which is essentially it's very similar to an idea that's been around in homeopathy for a very long time called isotherapy. So homeopathy, if we break it down, it means similar suffering. So let's say you had a red, hot, swollen joint. You might use something made from bee sting, a remedy called apis, to fix that. But you could also use the thing that caused the problem. So if you know that you have never been well since taking a particular medication or since a particular vaccine, you could use that substance, the exact same substance, and that's called isopathy. And you can use any substance that makes you sick in a tiny, tiny dilute amount to try to get your body to wake up and go, yes, now I see what the problem is, and get your body's vital force, the energy, to fix itself. Because it looks like a pill, homeopathy, and that's kind of confusing. It's not really a pill. It's more like an energetic reminder or a wake-up call to kickstart your body's own healing energy to do the job.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes, we went right to the politics with Paola, but we want you to discuss more actually how homeopathy works and your experience with it. But we also have a whole lineup of questions, and while we're talking, I'll get Ginny to sort out the questions and start asking you in between. Okay, Ginny?
Right, and let's do this is before we ask some of these questions, because some of them are very specific, like can I do homeopathy with this, and can this homeopathy work with this, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Mary,
yeah.
talk talk a little bit about...
I could give a quick answer about that, yeah. So basically, the kit that you are going to have on your website is a fantastic kit for home use. It's got 36 remedies in it, and I selected them on the basis of what are you most likely to have happen in your home or when you're on your travels, that you could look after yourself without having to get a professional homeopath to help you. So it covers things like first aid emergencies, like bites and stings and bruises and cuts and all kinds of injuries and stuff to do with what happens when you go for dental work or surgery, a whole bunch of stuff for coughs, colds, flus, cystitis, UTIs, that kind of stuff. And those are the types of things that you can very, very easily, with only a small amount of study, look after yourself. In fact, we even have a great app that goes with it that you can have on your phone and take everywhere with you. Those are very, very easy to learn how to deal with. First aid is the easiest because if you walk into a wall, everybody gets a bruise, so we all respond the same way. And so we can say, oh, yes, for that you'll need arnica. Or if you trap your finger in a door, you're going to get a shooting pain, like Paola was talking about. Hypericum will help with that, and arnica will help with the bruising. And so these are things you can learn very, very quickly. And then it takes a little bit of time to understand how to choose the right remedy for a cold or a flu, because you've got a few different options and you have to match very carefully to the right remedy. So all of the questions that say, can homeopathy help with XYZ chronic condition or serious condition, the answer is yes, and the way that it helps is not by, say, for example, treating cancer or treating diabetes or treating whatever the label is. It works by boosting the person. Because we've talked a lot today already about the building blocks of health, which is clean air, clean water, clean food, good nutrition, no stress, a harmonious, safe place to live. Those are the building blocks of health. And sometimes your body will get stuck. And one of the ways that you can boost your body to be able to fix itself is homeopathy. So I would say it works across the board. If you get the right remedy, you will be amazed at what it can do.
Okay, so when a person were to, let's say, now I don't know anything about homeopathy. I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And yes. I'm interested in natural health, and I order this kit. Mm-hmm. And then let's say I do get a cold. What am I supposed to do?
Right. Well, there's a couple of things. You're supposed to pay attention to the type of cold you have. For example, the stuff coming out of your nose, is it bland or are you getting red and sore under your nose? That will be a clue to which remedy you might need. And this is probably a bit TMI, but what color is the mucus coming out of your nose? Is it like egg white, or is it yellow, or is it green? And what texture is it? Is it gloopy, or is it stringy or sticky? You're beginning to understand what a fantastic job I have because I get to ask all of these disgusting questions. But it's the devil in the detail, really, Ginny. It's like we want to match that to the absolutely perfect matching remedy for your situation. And there are a few. So what I suggest is that you get a good reference book, and the one that I particularly like is by someone called Miranda Castro, and it's called The Complete Homeopathy Handbook. And another thing that you could do, if you really think you want to invest a bit of time and study, I have a Facebook group called Mary's Homeopathy Study Group, and every Monday we have practice. So it's called Match It Monday, and all the Match It mamas go on there. They see what the case is when they're not in a panic, they're not sick, their children aren't sick. They look at that and they go to the book and they practice finding the right remedy. And then we have Solution Saturday where I tell everybody what it was. So we have that. We have probably, I don't know whether we have 100 or so of those in the resources files of past Mondays. So you can practice, and then when things go wrong, you really know how to use that book, and you know how to match, and you know how to take the remedy, and it's brilliant. And, of course, Carolyn has a great book on homeopathy that she's putting together for the listeners as well.
Right. Let me just mention that here because in the book I put things down in such a way that you tell a person and then you tell them again and then you tell them a third time. So in this booklet, and it's free as usual at drcarolyndeanlive.com. So in the book, actually I start out by giving away my Future Health Now encyclopedia. It's been for sale forever. It's that 588-page book. Hopefully a lot of people already have it, but if you don't now, it's free because I really want people to look at the 130 conditions there and see what minerals and vitamins and herbs and homeopathy are useful for each condition because we have to get self-sufficient. So this book is an education. And the next section, we have the homeopathic home remedy kit. I talk about that. And it is Mary's kit, as she said, with the 36 remedies that she's chosen, and they're awesome. And they're all in one little kit you can hold in your hand. They're tiny vials. There are 36 pellets or about 36, 38 pellets in each vial. One pellet is a dose. Do not listen to people who say take 3 to 10 pellets and act like it's going to be empty in a few days. These pellets, because they're infinitesimally diluted, one pellet is equal to taking all 36. And then I have a section called Grafting Your Remedies. When you get down to about 3/4 empty, you will learn how to add some blank pellets, put in a drop or two of vodka or grain alcohol, shake it up, and you have a whole new vial. These remedies can last forever, pretty much. And then I go into homeopathic kit short description, where you'll learn just a basic sentence, a keynote of the remedy. Then I have the homeopathic kit long description. And then in the appendix, Mary has allowed me to reproduce her homeopathic guide. And she has a very unique way of working with her guidelines. She talks about, I'm just looking at it right here, the most important, how do you say it, Mary, the keynote?
Sometimes I say like number one remedy for.
Ah, that's right.
So,
yeah.
You can just know that arnica is number one for trauma and bruising and shock.
Right.
And
right.
Yeah, and chamomile is number one for teething. And calcarb is number one for slow teething. And silica is number one for forcing out splinters. And this is how people learn. It's like layers. That's what sounds great about what you're doing, is that here's the short version, here's the long version. And people will start with the short version, they'll have some great successes, and it will inspire them then to go to the deeper, longer version.
Yes, it's wonderful. I swear by homeopathy. I tend to bump and fall over the handlebars of bikes and all that quite a bit. So I have my arnica with me all the time, and arnica is amazing. And again, with the way we're working with our customers, most of our people are already on the minerals, already on our natural products. So you're very healthy, but you don't want to be in a situation where you'll have a bump or a cold or a pain or a dental problem, and when you go rushing to the doctor thinking the doctor's going to reassure you, most of the time you end up with a prescription, and then you don't know whether to take it or not, and then you take it, and then you have the side effects. So what I tell people, and I always have, is take a remedy at the first sign of a symptom, because you've got it in your mind that, oh, I think I know what remedy, and then you look it up. You take the remedy. Even while you're driving to the doctor or the ER, you're taking your remedies. You can take them every 5 minutes for an acute symptom. By the time you get there, you may be better, and you'll either stay to get reassured, or you'll just turn around to go home. And that's what humans want, some action. When you have a problem, you want to take action. What we're telling you is take the action of taking a homeopathic remedy. Right, Mary?
Definitely. Yep. Just a couple of points there. I would wait until the symptoms get clear. So, for example, if you felt like you were coming down with a cold, you might give aconite, which has the reputation of being able to nip colds in the bud. But if that doesn't work, then you wait until you can see what color is the mucus, what's it like, what other symptoms do I have with it, because that makes the matching much easier. And the other thing is you can repeat every 5 minutes, provided that you wait, and what you need to wait for is that you get better, and then you plateau or get worse. And that's the time that your body needs another reminder, and that's following the law of the minimum dose. So on my group, I encourage people not to ever do routine repetitions every 5 minutes or every few hours or once a day or anything like that. I always just say, listen to your body. Your body will tell you when it wants some more, because things will slide backwards.
Perfect. And that's, again, what we're encouraging our people to focus on, is how they feel. Are you feeling better or worse? And even on the chat, where, as Ginny already said, people are saying, well, what do I use for anxiety? Well, you can look up in our in the homeopathic guidebook. It's at drcarolyndeanlive.com, and you can. I'm doing it right now. You can type in anxiety. Oh, there's anxiety for a child's emotional health, and then you go further, and you get to the conditions. Oh yes, aconite comes up for anxiety. Argentum night. And then you look at Argentum night. Is that the one I want? Or will I use arsenicum? So even just the beauty of the Internet, where you can download this book, put it on your computer, do a search, it's just awesome. You have the tools.
It is.
Right there.
It really is. Yeah. The app, that it's on a site called remediesseeker.com, and it's free. And it was actually created by a non-profit called For Homeopathy, and I love the work they're doing. They're based in the UK. And I gave them all of my text, rather like I gave you the text, because I love people to have this information. And like you're so generous and you're giving this information for free. It's because you want people to be well. And so this amazing non-profit financed this fantastic app. Now, the thing about the app is, once you have it downloaded on your phone, even if you go off-grid, it's still in your phone, all of that information. It's totally searchable. So it's just wonderful what technology is doing for us. And the way that our tribe is connecting because of technology, Before, it was kind of lonely to think the way that we did. Like I'm thinking back, when my daughter will be 27 this month, and thinking back to, right at the beginning, deciding not to vaccinate, which at that time was an unusual choice, and not knowing very many people who felt the same way as I did, no internet, no way to connect. I mean, it's so much better now. We're so fortunate that we can get this information.
Yes, I didn't get where the app is. Where do you find this app?
I'll say it again, yes. If you go to remediesseeker.com, there's a link that will take you there. And the reason why it's good to go to remediesseeker.com is it covers a whole bunch of stuff that isn't included in the app. It covers childbirth. It covers travel to exotic climates. So there's a lot of extra information there as well.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, it was wonderful to hear what Paola was saying, and I so enjoyed listening to her, and it just made me feel very excited that that our tribes are coming together and they are being heard.
And the younger people too, Mary. It's our generation. You're in my generation. It's we've been carrying this torch for a long time, and it's just wonderful to hear the younger generation taking advantage, just like you say, of all what's available on the internet and everything. And the concern I have with young people these days, I see the millennials, they'll have their one child, and they've grown up on drugs in a drug culture, and they really don't have any clue about that. I mean, I'm making a vast generalization, but they tend to think everything is drug-based. So it is wonderful to get this information out there.
Yes, and I feel sorry for them because, like you say, our generation, I went to measles parties and chickenpox parties.
Yes.
I had measles and stuff like that, and everybody was pretty relaxed about it. But now there's so much misinformation, and the level of fear is so high that mothers and fathers have lost confidence in their ability to parent and in their ability to nurture and care for their children. They think that they need to be running to the ER or urgent care every 5 minutes. And, it's not the case. And I wish people could understand that. It would make them feel a lot less frightened.
Well, yeah, again, Paola really emphasized that, which was wonderful. Now, I'm going to ask Ginny if she's ready to ask questions from our listeners and from our customers.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's do this, Mary. Just to confirm, it's Mary's Homeopathy Study Group on Facebook. That's one of the things that people can join.
Can I just say, you'll be asked to answer 3 very easy questions. Please answer them, because if you don't answer them, you don't get in. And your profile needs to be open for us to see it. So if there's a reason why your profile is kind of shut down and private, you might want to send a message just to explain who you are and give us some background. What we're trying to create with the group is a very, very safe haven. We have 24,000 people or more on there, and they've all been individually checked to make sure that they're genuine. We don't want any trolls. We don't want any people doing screenshots. We have had issues in other groups with skeptics outing people because they didn't like their choices. So we've been really careful about it, and I hope you'll find it a very safe, kind, supportive place to be.
That sounds wonderful. Sounds very good. It sounds like a lot of work, too, to keep track of all that.
It's a lot of work. I want to give a shout-out to my Marvels. I have a group of moderators called the Marvels. So we're Mary and the Marvels. And the Marvels do so much work on my behalf for free. They donate their time just because they want this resource to be available for themselves and for everyone else. So I really couldn't do it without them.
Yes, that sounds extraordinary, because I know what it takes just to do the very basics, and so that is a lot of work, and especially to make sure people get integrous information. So that's fantastic. So we've got Dr. Dean's Homeopathic Guidebook on drcarolyndeanlive.com. Those links are going up on the website. We've got Mary's Homeopathy Group, the Homeopathy Study Group on Facebook. You've got the remedyseeker.com, and all these things I'm putting into the chat line, okay? So you've got that resource right here. Now, we've got people asking every single kind of situation. What can homeopathy do for this, that, and the other thing? So, and one of the people on the chat line said, I've heard that homeopathy takes a long time.
Oh, this is a great question. Thank you, whoever asked that. Homeopathy sometimes takes a minute. I can remember being on a flight with my daughter who was teething and very cross, and she was screaming and screaming and screaming. It was going to be a 4-hour flight from Athens to London. Everybody was just looking at me like, oh, no, we're on the flight with the screaming baby. And she was in one of those bassinets that you hook to the wall of the plane. So I quickly gave her a chamomilla, and she just went down and went to sleep. And then I got all of these dirty looks from everyone on the plane who thought I had drugged her. It was like less than a minute. It just hit the inside of her mouth, and she went to sleep. So it depends on the situation. In a really extreme acute situation, I would say it can be less than a minute. Let's say you slam your hand in a door, and you get that awful shooting nerve pain that we talked about, and you take a hypericum, it can stop almost immediately. So the more extreme the situation, the faster it will work. Now, if you move into the chronic state, that really can be a different situation. You probably didn't get into a chronic state of ill health or serious illness overnight. It probably took years. And so it might take some time to get out of it. I'm a little unusual in the way that I work. I ask people to give me 3 months. I say, please commit to 3 months. And if you do, I'm going to do my very best to have you 80% better in 3 months. It's not a guarantee. I can't promise. But that's my intention, and I ask it to be your intention as well. And we just work really, really hard to get you there. And then at that point, most of my clients go and put me on a standby basis where I only check in with them if they need extra help or they get stuck down the line. But if we're lucky and we take a good case and we do a good match and we get a great remedy first time, then it's true that most of my clients will be 80% better at that mark. So that's pretty fast, I think, particularly as some of my clients have been sick for a very long time. And like I say, I just want to stress, I'm not making false claims. It's not a guarantee. It's more like, I think if you set a clear intention of what you want to achieve, you are more likely as a practitioner to get there. And the same for the client. If they set a clear intention, I'm doing this, I'm going to reclaim my health, then it's much more likely that you're going to be successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now here's another question. Somebody typed in, when you were talking about dosing earlier, and Carolyn was saying every 5 minutes, and you said, well, let's do this, kind of wait. You made a comment about backsliding. So the clarification is, did you say that the body can backslide if it's given too much of a remedy? Is that what you were saying?
No, I'm saying that if you give one dose, your body will let you know when the second dose is needed, because the improvement will plateau or the symptoms will start to return.
Very good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So if the progress plateaus or the symptom starts to return, then that's when you take the next dose.
Yes, and one way
good.
that you can do it, Ginny, is you can take it in water. I'm a big fan of putting the second dose in water in any kind of sized glass container, a jar, a water bottle, a dropper bottle. Bash it 10 times on your hand and have a drop of that. Because what that does is it slightly changes, very slightly changes the remedy so that your body keeps on hearing it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so here's some questions for you. What can homeopathy do for people with EMF sensitivities?
Okay, this is a good question. A lot of people have that. I think when you're in a state of harmony, you are able to deal with things better, including gluten. He was aiming for people to have a high Weeble factor. You know that song, Weebles Wobble, but they don't fall down? It's those toys with the rounded bottoms, and you knock them down and they pop back up again. That's what you will be like in a state of health and harmony, and you won't be knocked over by EMFs or other external factors so easily. So it's all about boosting you so that you don't overreact to stimuli, or that, EMFs, I'm not saying they're good for anybody, but I'm just saying that a very strong, healthy constitution can deal with it better than one that's weakened. We have a remedy Yeah, sorry. Carry on, Ginny.
No, you carry on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just want to name check a couple of remedies that I have found to be good. One is vernix caseosa, which is that waxy coating that's the protective layer that a baby is born with. So sometimes people that have EMF sensitivity, they need that remedy because the issue is they don't have enough of a protection to the outside world. And other cases I've seen, it might be given a remedy made from ozone, because again, the theme of ozone is it's the protective layer of our planet, which has been breached. So this is the kind of matching that we do. We use the database, look at what the symptoms do to echo that theme, and then we're looking and combing through like 5,000 remedies to try and find this perfect match for that person and that situation. And if you find it, it is like magic.
Fantastic. Okay, so other questions that people were curious about would be how about the situation of anxiety, where people are just anxious and have insomnia?
Right. I want to start by answering with my favorite quote by Krishnamurti, and he said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society." And so I think if you're not a little anxious, you're probably not paying attention. When you see what we've done to our planet and what we've done to our own health and the health of future generations, it's okay to be a little anxious. It shows you're awake. Now, going on from that, I would say that if you are so anxious that you feel like you're in a downward spiral, you have terrible insomnia, you can't function in your day-to-day life, you probably need to work with a professional homeopath. If you're just anxious at certain moments, like, for example, you have an event coming up and you hate public speaking and you get all jittery before that, that's a different kind of anxiety. That's more like an acute anxiety. And that is covered in the app, and it's covered in the book that you're going to get from Carolyn, and it's covered in the leaflet in the kit. So there's certain things, again, that you can easily do yourself. And there are other things where you would so benefit from working with a homeopath who knows what they're doing.
One of our listeners typed in and said, I take a homeopathic remedy prescribed by a classical homeopath, and he is opposed to combining remedies. For example, he does not recommend that I use the Pico Silver, which I decided to take anyway. I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on silver. And yeah, exactly, right?
This is a great. I'm a great person to ask about silver. So on my group, I have taken quite a strong stand against biocides. And silver is a biocide, and so is anything that kills stuff. So neem oil, tea tree oil, all kinds of stuff are biocides. So what I've noticed is that in the holistic world, people say, I'm not having antibiotics anymore. I can see that they wrecked my gut. I can see that they ruined my health. I'm done. No more antibiotics. And what do? They jump out of the antibiotic fire into the biocide, natural so-called biocide frying pan, and start using colloidal silver and all sorts of other stuff that still works on the same principle of killing stuff. So I bring it down to this. Do you want to kill? Do you want to go against bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites that are super adaptable, that will just get stronger because you'll never kill them all, and they'll come roaring back at you? Or do you want to boost yourself? And I'm all for boosting. I've tried it the other way. Before I discovered homeopathy, I took a lot of biocides, I took a lot of antibiotics, and it nearly killed me. So now I'm all about, I want to live in harmony. I don't mind if I have a little bit going on. I mean, we are all walking biomes of all kinds of bacteria and parasites and stuff. And provided that you're well and you have energy and you sleep and you eat and you digest, there's no problem. You just coexist. Or you go to war and it's very likely you'll lose because you're going against the most adaptable critters on the planet. So I would say ditch the biocides, whether they be pharmaceutical or whether they be so-called natural. We have a whole bunch of people in my group, we call them the Bioneers, who ditched biocides, and they are so happy they did. They said that their health is really
improved. I'll have to intervene here, Mary, because we do have a silver product. It is ionized. It's an ion of silver, and I'd like you to read the silver report that we have at drcarolyndeanlive.com, because there is a, quote, deficiency of silver in the body, the way we're using it at the very low potency. It is a natural substance that the body requires. It's not getting any more. And the way we're using it is to support the body's immune system, not as a biocide. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be critical of that. I'm all for boosting through nutrition. I'm just not for going to war. I'm not for colloidal silver is usually about trying to kill bacterial infection. And that's what I'm concerned about. Right, and I'm sure the people that come to you, and certainly the people that come to us, are very ill, and they do need this type of support. And just like anything else, if people don't require something, or if everything is in balance, then they're not going to take remedies that are focused on boosting the immune system if their immune system is in balance. Actually, Mary, what I say, the only thing you can take in high doses is our Remag magnesium, because it is so crucial and it is so deficient in the population. Although we do tell people, and I'm glad you have the is it mag sulfate in the kit, or is it the mag phos? Mag phos, yeah, which will help remind the body how to use its magnesium. So that's definitely something where the minerals in a homeopathic form can help utilize our own minerals. But if you're not getting them anymore in the diet because it's been farmed out of the soil, you're not going to manufacture minerals out of thin air. You need the basics of the minerals, sea salt in your water, the multiple minerals, and we use the stabilized ions of minerals so that we can use low potency. They don't build up, and they don't distract the body from being in balance.
Good. Yeah, that sounds very wise. Your listeners might like to look at cell salts as well. It's another whole area of homeopathy with low-dose potencies, 6Xs or 12Xs, and they're, originally I think they were called Schussler's tissue cell salts. But cell salts can be really easy to learn, and so I think one of the files on our group is all about cell salts. There's only 12 of them, and so you can actually learn pretty easily what they're for, and they are more like nutritional supplements than homeopathic remedies in many ways.
Right, they're not as diluted in their potency, so they actually have a physical presence in the body. Is that correct?
Yes, they once you get to 12C, there's no molecule of the original substance left. But at 12X and 6X, which means that the dilution factor was 1 to 9, so the X stands for 10, versus 1 to 99, where the C stands for 100. So it's still more material. There's still, you could find a molecule of the substance in anything up to a 12C, and after that you can't. So, yeah, there's a material element with those cell salts.
Right. Okay, back to Ginny and questions.
Right.
Okay, very good. Let's ask this, Mary, what about things like PTSD or a traumatic brain injury, these kinds of things?
Yes. I have had a lot of success with concussion injuries, head injuries. PTSD, I have had some cases. I would like to have more. It's very difficult sometimes. I even offered one Veterans Day to work with someone in the military who had PTSD, but often I had a conversation with an ex-military person who said that often they don't like to talk with anybody or to even explore what's going on with them. There was a fantastic homeopathy project in San Francisco where they managed to get the trust of the Veterans Association there and worked with many, many PTSD sufferers. But I have not had as many as I would like to have because I feel like it could be such a huge resource for PTSD, and it's underused, homeopathy. We have so many great PTSD remedies, and it can really be very liberating for people who've suffered for years and years. We have remedies for people who keep reliving the experience. We have remedies for people who have terrible panic attacks. We have remedies for people who can't sleep because of their, always being on red alert, on guard all the time. And we just have this amazing database of things that can help, that are very, very specific to each individual case.
And you hear what Mary's saying here. She is not saying, well, you have anxiety, then you can take this, this, or this. And this is a true homeopath speaking, where you have to research your symptoms and compare them to the available remedies. And as we've mentioned in the homeopathic guide that you can get on our website, the Dr. Carolyn Dean Live, you will notice that there are remedies for all kinds of different conditions, and you just have to match them with your symptoms. You know your symptoms better than anyone. When you go to a doctor and you have 5 minutes to say what's wrong with you, and you just end up with a prescription, that's why we're in the state we are today. When you have a consult with a homeopath, you're going to spend an hour, maybe hours, going over every detail so that the right remedy can be chosen if that's what you want to pursue. When you're doing acute homeopathy, which is what we're talking about here with Mary's kit and our guidebook, you want to have at your fingertips remedies that will help you in acute situations. So there's a lot of layers and levels, but a lot of it is on your doorstep, you taking responsibility for how you're feeling, being able to articulate how you're feeling and what's going on, and then in the privacy of your own home, matching to a remedy. And then I find that people who get success with acute homeopathy, they get inspired to study more, they get inspired to study it. Mary's got a study group, or they get inspired to have a consultation, so Mary can do consultation. So there's many ways that you can pursue this. But I'm always going to say the underlying foundation of your health is what's important. Mary and Paola both said that if your nutrition is faulty, then your body is not going to be able to support the type of energetic medicine that homeopathy provides.
One of the things about homeopathy that I love is that it does actually seem to help people to get nutrition from their food better. That's what I've noticed. So on my group, I'm always encouraging people to eat organic, grow their own vegetables and fruits in the garden if they can, and herbs. And if they can't, to get a community-supported agriculture box from their local farmer, someone who's really looking after the soil and the micronutrients in the soil. And if none of that is possible, it's so wonderful, because we have a situation in America with so many food deserts, or people are unable to access that kind of proper nutrition. And then what you're offering them is a great alternative to that, and an extra support, in, like you say, in these times where farming has really been all but destroyed.
Right. Sadly. Ginny, I'm sure we have more questions, and we only have a few more minutes.
Yes, I know, and I'm going through them as quickly as I can. Now, what about these kinds of things that are like structural impingements, Mary, where it's something like sciatic pain in the hamstring caused by the L5 disc pressing on a nerve type of a thing? When it's something structural, how's homeopathy impacting there?
Yeah. I've seen quite a lot of success with sciatica and with carpal tunnel and tarsal tunnel syndromes. But sometimes if it is a purely mechanical block, you will need to have something as an adjunct to the homeopathy, like maybe work with a chiropractic person or an osteopath. So I've seen it both ways.
Good, excellent. And a little bit about, in general, healing IBS, SIBO, GERD, SHMERD, so many gut issues.
Yeah.
I mean, so many gut issues, right?
Yes, terrible. And a lot of that is to do with antibiotic use and biocide use. So, yes, well, unfortunately, it's very difficult to do yourself, but a homeopath can help you. I have on the group, if there's an interesting video of a case, if you want to see how a homeopath works, it's called Food Allergies. It's a video case of a man that came to me probably just under a year ago, who is now able to eat everything, has had huge improvements in his anxiety levels, and complete turnaround, just using a homeopathic remedy. So, yeah, it can be done. It's just finding the right thing.
So that's one thing. So with the homeopathy kit, we're talking about doing the first aid and some of the basics, colds, fevers, flus, that kind of thing. Then we did break it down with the acute situation, which is something that's highly intense but very contained, short window. And then we're looking at chronic conditions. So you've got to kind of vet out, tease out, what are you after? And then what Dr. Dean's got all the information to in her homeopathy. The Future Health Now Encyclopedia has tons of homeopathy remedies in there and options for you. And when, Mary, a person decides, okay, I think I want to work with a homeopathic, I want to work with a homeopath, how would you recommend that a person get that, hire that person or consult with them or find them even? I know.
Well, the good news is a lot of homeopaths now work on Skype or in a Zoom room, which means that even if you don't have anyone locally, you will find someone who can help you. We have two big registers in the United States. One is the NCH have a register where the people have after their names the letter CCH, and the other is NASH, which is the North American Society of Homeopaths, which I'm registered with, and they have RS Hom _NA for North America. So those are the two registries. On my group, we have a file called Finding a Homeopath. It tells you how to link up to the registries, how to find low-cost student clinics if you are on a tight budget. It tells you a whole bunch of really great questions to ask your homeopath before you hire them to see if they're a good fit for you. Things like, what happens when you go on holiday? What happens if I have an emergency at the weekend? What happens if this, that, and the other? And then you can listen to their answers and you can see, are they someone that you trust, that you could work with, that you think is a good fit? Very personal, like you were saying, Carolyn, that I talk to people for an hour and 20 minutes at the intake appointment. It's a very intimate thing. You're asking people to tell you their family history, their medical history, all of their current concerns, their entire wish list of everything that they would like to change about their lives. You can imagine it's a very personal connection that you have. So you want to make sure that you interview the person or you have a sense of the person before you book that appointment.
Right. And the two registries, there's NASH, the North American Society of Homeopaths. What was the second one, Mary?
I believe it's run by the NCH, which is the National Center for Homeopathy. And if you do a search for Homeopathy CCH register. I'm sorry I don't remember the exact link. But as I say, if you go on the group and go to the files at the top, we have 100 files with all kinds of amazing stuff. And one is called Finding a Homeopath. And I would suggest getting that file before you choose your homeopath, because it's got all of these things that you should consider, before you make your choice.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, we have blown out another hour of awesome information. Everybody on the chat is just so happy and grateful for your contribution, and thank you so much. And I'm sure a lot of
thank you for your contribution. I'm just starting to understand the scale of what Carolyn is doing and how generous she's being with her material, and I think that we must be kindred spirits in that.
Yes, I can tell for sure. And yes, we will keep in touch, because I've already asked Mary if she would take consultations when people start calling us and asking our 8 customer service people homeopathic questions. We're definitely going to send them to your Facebook page and your website, and if they want. Yes, and if they want consultations, I think it's a superb education to do a consult with a homeopath to find out what works for you. Thank you, Mary. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Ginny. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you guys so much. Outstanding
Thank you,
show,
Ginny.
Carolyn. Excellent.
Yeah.
Another good show, Ginny. Another good show.
You're listening to AchieveRadio.com. A new drummer for a new awakening.